Hey, it's Eric back with an update on the Chroma that we started on in what, February?
Yeah, it's been a few
Been a
months, yeah.
while. Wow. Okay. This is actually I've got another Chroma here. Another friend of mine has one, and it's a working one. There ended up being so many problems with the one that I took on that troubleshooting it was became impossible for my little brain. So I was lucky enough to get my friend Nev's that works and be able to swap out individual boards in his to sort of narrow down what all was wrong with mine. And turns out there was a lot wrong with mine. But since mine is now buttoned up, I thought that I would give you a tour of the inside of a Chroma really quick on
Yeah.
his, because I've left his open. And just know that when we go across the room to mine, it's the same thing, except mine's buttoned up. But anyway, so this is a Chroma. This is Nev's working Chroma. Hello, Nev. Let's start with this. So you do the screws, take the lid off, and you have. And I'm not going to go in any sort of signal flow order, but just as we get to it, this is the power supply. This is a replacement power supply that uses a modern switched mode module, which you find in computers and stuff now. All that to say that built around this Rhodes Chroma site that Chris Ryan runs is this really tight group of people, and a bunch of engineers, a bunch of keyboard players, some folks like me that are somewhere in the middle, that have developed these upgrades that bring the machine into the 21st century, one of them being the replacement power supply. There's another guy, a couple of guys that have done a new motherboard. We won't see that in this one. There's another guy who's done a polyphonic aftertouch retrofit for it. So there's this whole thing going on that really breathes new life into these things. Anyway, back to our thing. So this is a version of the switch mode power supply upgrade. Ta-da. Then we have, if you look way down in here, I'm going to grab the phone. If you look way down in there, there is a motherboard that handles the distribution of the digital signals to the voice cards, and then sums the analog audio signals back out to the real world. They call that the voice motherboard, and the voice motherboard is the carrier for the dual channel voice board. They call it a dual channel because this is two complete synthesizer voices on one board. This is pretty much a complete synthesizer on a card. The necessary switching and control stuff has to be done externally, but as far as sound generation, it's all right here. Another brilliant thing about the Chroma is that this card, through the firmware software that runs the whole machine, can be configured in a whole bunch of different ways. So it can either be 16 voices of an individual oscillator, or it can be an 8-voice machine, 2 oscillators through a single filter, or you can stack the filters, or you can ring mod across things, or you can do FM, put the filters into oscillation and actually do FM. And because the filters, not only the oscillators, but the filters are temperature compensated, so they are really stable. This is one of the few few analog machines that can do FM. When I say FM, I mean frequency modulation synthesis, like what the DX7 does. Can do FM-y sort of sounds and pull it off. It's got the interesting timbre of FM, intermodulated stuff, but the warmth of the analog, which is just, when we go across the room, I'll pull up some of those sounds. It's really just brilliant. So there are, 16 complete synthesizers on 8 complete boards in this machine. 8 of the dual channel voice boards plug into the motherboard. Moving forward, you have a 64-note keyboard. These are the dual not dual, these are the stack switch assemblies. Called that because the leaf switches here are a big old stack, and can actually handle velocity. This is a velocity sensitive machine. Oddly enough, this design, although it is fairly old, this is what church organs have used forever, and I know this because I worked for a church organ builder for a while. They are self-cleaning. As long as you keep playing them, they will naturally rub on themselves to keep the switch contact clean. Interesting little tidbit, it is the same sort of stack switch design that the DX7 also used for and I don't know if it's for the same reason or not, but they didn't use the little sealed Panasonic style rubbery things. They decided to go with an open switch thing like this, and sure enough, as long as you keep playing it, it will stay clean. So, stack switchboards, all that data gets multiplexed into a signal that goes to the I/O board, and then we're going to lift up the lid here on the I/O board. Yep. Okay. So, left to right, the EQ and audio board. This is where the EQ stuff on the front panel gets done. You have actual honest-to-God transformer balanced outputs. It's got XLR in the back, and they're the transformers for the balancing. And then you have the brains of the machine. This is actually the I/O board here, where everything kind of happens. This is Grand Central Station. The I/O board is connected to the you've got to the voice motherboard via that ribbon cable. It is connected to the stack switchboards for the keyboard data via this cable. It is connected to the front panel membranes via these cables. It is connected to the custom, I think they called it Triad, proprietary computer interface via that cable. It is connected to the audio outputs of the EQ board for tuning purposes. It has to listen to itself to auto-tune, and that's where that is. Connects to the Bender box there. You've got your connections to the cassette interface and stuff here. And then last but not least, the connection to the main CPU board here. Now, it is interesting, there are two CPUs in this machine. A single, at this point in time, a single CPU wasn't quite powerful enough to be able to handle, where they judged it not quite powerful enough to be able to handle generating all of the envelopes and the LFOs and reading all of the key data and generating all the other necessary things to keep the machine running. The memory mode in what in my opinion is kind of a bad design choice. They tried to get one CPU to do the whole thing, and it can't do it. So memory mode is very sloppy. Chroma, on the other hand, is a very, very tight machine. The key response is very fast. The envelopes are very punchy. And I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to guess that it's due to the use of two complete CPUs. You've got this one, which does nothing but handle key, the switch data. And then once it sits there and scans the keyboard by itself, it can then hand off that data to the CPU to do with it as it sees fit. But there is one CPU doing nothing but scanning the keyboard, which is pretty cool. And then all that gets handed off to the CPU board, which is here. And this is, they generate all the LFOs and the envelopes and handle all the patch management and do everything else that a CPU's got to do over here. Now, what we are seeing on this particular one, and this may eventually, it might not be too late for this one, but you see on the batteries here where this corrosion, yeah, right there. Mm-hmm. You've got it at that end. You can see where it's dripped. On chromas that have been sitting for too long, the alkaline batteries will end up not just leaking, but will end up corroding and eating up these traces. And then as the gases get expelled, they start oxidizing pins, and sometimes that can even creep inside these EEPROMs. On the Chroma that I've got, the batteries were just a complete mess. All the traces around here on the boards had been eaten up. All of the EEPROMs had hair on the on the pins. It looked like white fuzz. Even had white fuzz on the pins and stuff over here. And mine apparently had been stored on its back with the keys up, so that all of this battery acid dripped down, ate up traces. You can see how they're clean. Yeah, you can see, you can see how they're clean here, but on mine, I can open this part and show you where I've had to actually rewire point to point some of the stuff that just got completely eaten away. And then on mine, it even got to the point where it got past this, dripped down onto the voice motherboard, ate some of that. So I ended up changing out about half the CMOS on that thing, and completely ate up this card in mine. So I just had to steal what parts I could off of it and throw it out. It was not even salvageable. So in a Chroma, if you haven't played it in a while, check on those AA batteries, because they will start leaking and corroding, and the gases and the acid will ruin this machine. If your machine is so far gone that the traces on the motherboard are shot, it is actually easier and much better to go on and purchase the CC Plus replacement motherboard. It is a very, very easy drop-in. It takes 20 minutes, no soldering required. It adds a ton of features. It adds a MIDI implementation if you spend the extra little money to get them to send you the wiring harness. It drops in the back. In fact, I have, where's mine? Oh, it's down here, because I don't have it hooked up. But they send you this little jumper cable with this little breakout box here. This is the CC Plus MIDI. So I am a big fan of the CC Plus upgrade, especially since on mine the motherboard was completely shot. There was no salvaging it. I just again had to snag what I could off of it and throw it away. So anyway, that's what's under the hood here. The keyboards on these things, I should also point out, there are no springs on this keyboard. On most other keyboards everywhere, there's some sort of a spring return on the bottom. With these, it's actually a lead weight on the back end of it. And it's balanced just so that it returns by itself. You've got just a lead weight sitting there doing its thing. So it's a very odd feeling keyboard. If you're used to a synth action or whatever, to get your hands on this, besides the switch action at the end, having the lead weights as counterweights instead of springs, and having real wood keys with that much throw, it just feels, it's a very different feeling. It's cool once you get used to it, but it's its own thing. So we're going to move from this machine, which is Nev's, and I'm going to leave it open so I can remember to replace his batteries. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. Over to my machine, where we can take a little peek at some of the stuff that I had to replace and actually listen to the darn thing.